essence of the semen, we say the spirit of the sperm, travels to the brainstem of a male, is electrically charged, ejaculated into the womb from an energy being into a liquid being. This liquid being, once the sperm and ovum comes together, goes through a process of meiosis, mitosis, from 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64. At the 64, what happens? Each cell then becomes a specific organ. It begins to multiply within itself for hair, eye, nose, tissue, fingernails, heart, kidney, lung, etc. So you are going from an electrical being to a liquid being. Liquid is transient. What do we mean by that? Liquid can be solid, it can be liquid, and it can be gas. So it is the one element that's transient. When that energy goes into the liquid, why liquid? Because liquid is an excellent conductor of electricity. So you're going from an electrical being into the perfect state that's conducive to that electricity, liquid. Then what happens? What pushed the semen forward? In the seminal vesicle, there's the urethra. And what is it doing? It does this when a male ejaculates. What is that? What's in there? Pressure. What's that pressure? Earth, wind, water, fire. Air, wind. It's thrusting. So there's a pushing. There's a wind. In our cultures, we acknowledge that. So from an electrical being to a wind being into a water state, then what? Was there fire involved? Yeah, the male and female had to reach a certain temperature because ejaculation does not take place. Orgasm does not take place in male and female until a certain body temperature is reached. If it's not reached, there's no ejaculation. If that friction does not produce the amount of heat that's necessary to give or produce a certain body temperature, there is no ejaculation. There is your fire. These go into this liquid realm, and through time, 9 months in most cases, you begin to personify from an electrical being, and mother is breathing in during this process. Scientists have found that the nasal passage of human beings have nerves inside that they don't know what the purpose of these nerves are. We acknowledge in the ancient cultures that mother is breathing in the elements, chemicals, gases, formulas, nutrients of her environment, which are being used like that balloon to pull for the formation of the baby. So there is a metaphysical aspect in Africa, amongst the natives of the Americas, amongst the Indus River Valley, amongst the natives of South America, amongst the Caribbean. We did have science. It's just that no one asks us, what do we say of us? Everyone wants to tell us what we are. Tell us what we believe, and what we should believe, and how we should believe it, and what it will give us when we get to heaven, or nirvana, or any other belief system. We have to start to identify, but the first step for us is most of the people we meet have been indoctrinated through monotheism. And monotheism is Greece and Roman worship of the Greek and Roman gods. And it represents the castration, emasculation, feminization of melanin night. Anyone else? Again, this is just an open mic. Just let's talk about what we want to learn.
So I know there's the book called The Secret Doctrine. How was that created? Was it created by examining the Bible, the Holy Bible? Or any of those other books of wisdom? I call them so. Like the I Ching and all that. Anyway, some of the lost texts or manipulated texts.
Marcus, you have those papers actually?
Yeah.
have them, please?
When we're talking about the Bible,
Because some of the stuff is already out there, it's just not being accessed.
the Bible, when you're going to look at it, the Bible is the latest book that we've been given. I say the latest book we've been given because that's, when you read it, when you analyze the King James Bible, and within the King James Bible, they say that it was translated from Latin, but going back, going back. Thank you. The Old Testament is from what? Hebrew. Then the New Testament is from Greek. All these came from tablets taken from our ancient culture, from when we say the Aztec culture, from our ancient Tamarack culture, from our, you understand? Now, when they come to these books, where they came from these old tablets, and there's many people that's dissected in the one of shape. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking to the sister.
Yeah, I was going to do it too, see?
And when you analyze these Jesus, it would make, as you can read it, it's showing you the Malay tablets, Akkadian.
Oh, Father, let's go to the other side.
And oh,
What we're handing out to you, so that you're very aware. There's a Bible that you can find. It's called the Zondervan, Z-O-N-D-E-R-V-A-N. Z-O-N-D-E-R-V-A-N. Zondervan Bible. Zondervan Study Bible, King James Version. This is something they put inside of it in the very beginning of it, which tells you that there's some scholars that are aware that all that they're telling us is not necessarily true. Okay?
when you're looking in the Bible, it explains to you that when you look, and I'm not going to go through the whole lot of it.
No, let's do it, because you need to see it. On the very top, what does it say? Major, turn to the side that has like, it says Armana letters on the top. Okay? Major representative examples of ancient Near Eastern non-biblical documents that provide parallels or to shed light on various Old Testament passages. So these so-called scholars are telling you this list, this front and back list, represents Old Testament information that doesn't come from the Bible sources, that predate the Bible. Now, before we start reading, let's establish a few things. According to so-called Bible scholars, there's an individual called Nimrod. Anybody ever hear of Nimrod in the Bible? Nimrod the mighty hunter. And these Bible scholars say Nimrod is the son of Cush. We know Cush is Ethiopian. And Cush is the son of Ham. We know Ham is Africa, Kemet. So now let's read what they have here. On the first one you see Armana letters. Everybody see it? If you see it, please raise your hand so I know we're on the same page. Okay. Canaanite Akkadian. Hundreds of letters written primarily by Canaanite scribes illuminating social, political, and religious relationships between Canaan and Egypt. Bear in mind that in the same Zondervan Bible, in the same Nelson Publishing Bible, as well as this Bible here, the King James Riley Study Bible, they now admit that the tribes of Canaan are those of the tribes of Europe. So then they also, because of admitting that Nimrod is from Cush, and Cush is Ethiopia, thereby Nimrod is an Ethiopian coming out of Cam, and Cam is Kemet, which is Africa, then they're admitting when you say Nimrod, and Nimrod set up 5 cities. According to the Bible, as they've given it to our people today, the 5 cities are, Genesis chapter 10, Akkadian, Shinar, Sumer, Babel, Babylon, Iraq, and Chaldea. So this Armana letters says relationships between Canaan and Egypt during the reign of Amenhotep III and Akhenaten. So these are the writings that were speaking to the people of Akhenaten and Amenhotep III's time. The second one says Amenhotep's wisdom, Egyptian early 1st millennium BC. 30 chapters of wisdom. Now we know Egypt is on what continent? Everybody, what continent is Egypt? Africa. 30 chapters of wisdom instruction are similar to what? Proverbs 22 through 24, and provide the closest external parallels to Old Testament wisdom. What is that telling us? What are they admitting? Where do they admit that Proverbs comes out of? Comes out of Amenhotep's wisdom, which is coming out of what continent? So the book of Proverbs, in its original writings, before it was misinterpreted, is actually what type of wisdom? Amenhotep's wisdom, African wisdom. Sure.
When they use Egypt, now, I know that the Greeks gave it
I
the name Egypt. Would that, one of them be Kemet?
Kemet, Tamarei,
But I mean, is there a difference between Kemet and Egypt, you know?
No, they're just grouping it as one when they do
Okay.
that. So that's the game. Okay? Third one, Atrahasis epic, Akkadian, Akkad. Who was the ruler of Akkadian? We just talked about it. Nimrod, because he set up Akkad, Shinar, Iraq, Calneh, and Babel. So the Akkadian Atrahasis, what records are these? Because Nimrod was what? Son of who? Cush. So if Nimrod's the son of Cush and he sets up Akkad, the Akkadian records are what type of records? Cushite records. So the Akkadian Cushite records are what? A cosmological epic depicting creation and early human history, including the what? I need your help. Including the what? Everybody who's reading. Including the what? The flood. Found in Genesis chapters 1 through 9. So Genesis chapter 1 through 9 were stolen from the Atrahasis, which is a what type of record? Cushite record. And Cush is what country? And Ethiopia is on what continent? So the Africans had a flood story called the Atrahasis records before the Europeans misinterpreted and gave us the Bible. Let's keep reading. Yes. This is before Gilgamesh. Because the Gilgamesh is the Sumerian records. Right? But the Sumerians speak about the floods of Utnapishtim. But the Sumerians, Sumer is Shinar. Shinar is Nimrod's people. So Sumer, was it before Africa or after? If Sumer or Shinar was established by Nimrod, then Nimrod is the son of Cush. Was there ancient Cushite Babylonian doctrine that he was teaching? Yes. Let's read what it says. Babylonian theodicy. Babylon, Babel, who was the ruler there? Babel, one of the cities of Nimrod. A sufferer and his friend dialogue with each other. Job. So where's the book of Job's story coming from? The Babylonian, what does it say on the paper? Babylonian what? Theodicy. So the story of Job, is it an African story in its original form, or is it a European story? It's an African story that's been misinterpreted and given back to us. Read the next one. Cyrus Cylinder, Akkadian. Yes.
Hasn't it been shown that this misinterpretation was a deliberate attempt of the Europeans to diminish the African to justify slavery?
Yes, and not just to justify slavery, not just the African, because oftentimes when we say African, I prefer to say Nubian melanin, because our great kingdoms in Africa were, many of them were contemporaries with our great kingdoms in South America.
It's showing that all of these Christian Bible myths were actually African.
These were our records.
And that they used them to justify suppression, misogyny.
They took the records and twisted it, but they understood. Why did they twist it? We talked about in the beginning. Cultural diffusion. They understood. See all of this that we're reading, these two sides of the paper, that it was already genetically in you. So you already would have an affinity towards it. But if I can break up your tribes and remove your priests and your priestesses and grab your records and stick them in our museums in Germany and stick them in our museums in New York and stick them in our museums in London and stick them in our museums in France and didn't give you access to the language knowledge in those museums and libraries, you would be pulled energy-wise, emotionally towards this embracing without knowing what's causing you to be pulled towards it, not realizing it's now been rewritten with a different agenda. The next thing, Cyrus Cylinder, King Cyrus of Persia. Persia is what country today? Iran. Iran, because the language that the Iranians speak is the language called Farsi. The word Farsi is the word Parsi or Persian. The Iranians, what do they call? Say it again. Say it, what are they called? Iranians. What is the word Iranian? Indo-Aryan. They are not the original indigenous people of that land. You were the original indigenous people of that land, but something happened. Let's see. King Cyrus of Persia records the conquest of Babylon that was used for Daniel's and boasts of his generous policies towards his new subjects and their gods. So the Daniel story of the Bible that's been rewritten, reinterpreted, regrafted is stolen from what? The Cyrus Cylinder, which is Akkadian, which is whose people again? Nimrod, which are who? Cushites, which are who? African people. This was your story. Rewritten, reinterpreted, lies and myths added to it, but you had the original. Let's continue. Dead Sea Scrolls, Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek. Several hundred scrolls and fragments include the oldest copies of Old Testament books and passages. Where was the Dead Sea Scrolls found? The tablets, they call it the tablets of Qumran, found in the Qumranian region of what? Palestine. But was it originally called Palestine? Because the word Palestine is the word Philistinia, and it means a migrant. So whoever named the land migrant could not have been the original people who lived there. This was your region. Israel, Saudi Arabia were all part of Africa at the time. The next one, and I'll stop. The Ebla tablets, Sumerian, Shinar, Nimrod's people, thousands of commercial, legal, literary, and epistolary texts describe the cultural vitality and political power of pre-patriarchal civilization in Syria. So before patriarchal civilizations came to Syria, this tablets of the Ebla already existed, talking the Abraham story as it was taught by our matriarchal society. The next, the Elephantine Papyrus. Where's Elephantine? It's an island, a part of Ethiopia. These are Ethiopian records. We made these copies because I want you to take them home and do some research and realize the Biblos, the Bible, the Quran, was taken from you. And the scholars know it. This is not something I typed, or he typed, or he typed. We just took it out of the Zondervan Bible, made a copy, and said, hey, look.
You can order the Zondervan.
You can go to any Barnes & Noble, B. Dalton Books, and whatever bookstore, and you can order it, and you'll go, oh my goodness. So, this same Bible is used by Printflow, T.D. Jakes. Same Bible used by Osteen, by Jimmy Swagger. They use this Bible. Swagger is actually one of the people who works on the commentary for this Bible. So if they know it's taken from you, and they know that the Bible that they're giving our people is not the original records, why won't they give you the original records? Unless they don't, because they'll lose control of South America, North America, Africa, the Indus River Valley.
Not only that, but their whole cultural identity
would fall to the ground. That which you worship would no longer be worshipped. Could you imagine when you realize that you are the mothers and fathers of spirituality? That you are the mothers and fathers of the original records of natives of the Americas, of South America, of Africa, of Asia, before the Aryan invasion, of Aryan caste system doctrine. The Aryan caste system doctrine was around way before the Europeans. The Europeans were invaded by those Indo-Aryans when they brought in the worship of Sol Aventus into Rome. They were called Aegyptos or Gypsies. And they brought a certain dogma from the Levantian region of the Caucasus Mountain, and they gave it to the people and created a caste system that birthed Jim Crow, that birthed Manifest Destiny, which simply says if you're living in the land of South America, or you're living in the land of North America, or Asia, or Africa, or the Caribbean, and I come and I see resources, and I feel that you don't know how to use those resources properly, I have a right to take it.
Isn't that the English basis of law of Malachi, that they recognize only property as ownership by how the fields are tilled, so that when they came to new, quote-unquote, new lands, as long as they didn't recognize the native traditional patterns of planting and harvesting, they could declare it terra nullius, which meant that it was unoccupied land, even though there are millions of people living on there, because they did not recognize how these other people would till their soil, which tilling the soil proved ownership of that land. Now, in 2000, the Aborigines in Australia sued the Australian government because they printed their centennial printed money. They stole some green type images, and that indigenous person was still alive, and he was able to prove that those images were the dead dreams of his family that were owned by his family. And they had to destroy all of those bills, and they had to pay penalty to him because they were also doing this with culture and art, declaring it. No one owns it, but it's owned by a community of people, and they will recognize that.
And that's what they're doing all across the globe with indigenous artifacts. You go, I've been to the London Museum, Leipzig in Germany. You go to these museums and you see artifacts of our cultures. As if we're no longer here. They say, well, it's for the betterment of all. What do you mean it's for the betterment of all? We're still here. Give it to us, and if you want to see it, come to my land. Wouldn't that make more sense? If it's from the natives of South America, give each people back their respective artifacts, and if you want to see it, then you go and you pay your resource and your finances to go to that country. But
They have no culture law.
Europe didn't
They
have
have
no.
history.
They
They take prestige from stealing it of other people.
And it was an attack on who? Who specifically was it an attack on? No. Who specifically? The matriarch. The hatred for the mother principle. This whole dilemma started because there were a group of men who by society were into man-boy love, called pedestrian. And they hated the female's design. They were jealous of it, but their jealousy became a hatred to the point where they were dressing as women did, trying to be you, because you were in tune with the forces of nature. So the attack in North America of the different tribes, in South America of the different tribes, in the Caribbean, in Africa, in the Indus River Valley, of our different tribes was a direct attack on the mother principle, not only with the hatred of the physically manifested mother, but the hatred of earth, mother. And it created a dogma that says, give you dominion over the fish of the seas and the fowls of the air and everything that creepeth upon the earth. When matriarchal doctrine didn't say dominion, it said, I am a child of her.
So most of these are more matriarchal.
That's all,
that right there
that's all
is
matriarchal on that paper.
Yeah, this is matriarchal.
And when they took it, it became patriarchal. That's why they said pre-patriarchal doctrine. If I say pre-patriarchal, what am I saying? Matriarchal doctrine. So it was to do away with being in tune with earth. Think about the mindset of individuals that say, we're going to massacre all the buffalo, hunt all the coyote, kill off all the animals that live on earth, and then form PETA and Greenpeace. Isn't that backwards? I'm going to massacre everything, and once I get everything to the brink of extinction, okay, now let's form organizations to save the whale.
Or the elephant, they go into wherever in Africa, and you can't, the elephant, population, I understand they're killing it, but then, it'll trample down your,
Well, the big note, see, the thing is, they're saying now to the Maasai, you can't do your rituals of hunting a lion. But they're doing that now, but that's after you came in with guns and killed every lion in sight. The Maasai weren't hunting for fun. They were hunting once a year, one lion as a coming-of-age ritual. You came in, hunted all the lions, and then say you can no longer practice your traditions. The Native Americans didn't kill all the buffaloes. They would hunt for food, of the 100,000 buffalo, they may have killed 10. And that kept population control. You do the same thing today. You give out gun permits, certain times of year hunting permits for people to have permission to hunt a certain amount of deer.
And what about the dodo bird? Who knows about the dodo bird?
Can you address how the Black Plague, which was brought on to Europeans by the nasty animals, impacted them psychologically, that they felt that they conquered nature, conquered God because they survived? And from what I've been reading and studying, it seems like that was a critical nexus in their manifest destiny of owning the earth and being the dominant creature.
Well, here's the reality about the Black Plague, which it's called. You in Tamaré, you in Native Americans, you in South America, you in the Caribbean, in this river valley, and all the other places we resided. You were in tune with nature, you understood the responsibility of your interaction with nature. We didn't suffer from a Black Plague of rats because we had an identification with feline. With cats. All of our cultures used cats, whether it was the jaguar or the lynx or the bobcat or the domesticated house cat. We wore these masks of the feline. We had carvings of the feline. They didn't have that. When they were being, in certain parts of Europe, decimated by this Black Plague, our physicians were brought in. If you go, I have a book over there, someone can grab it, a fairy tales book, a couple of them, so I can pass them around. And I'll show you the very mask of the doctors in Europe during the plague, or what they're calling the Black Plague, that they wore was the actual ibis of the physician called Tahuti, who they call Talk today. And they had to take our records. I'll show you. Give her one, please. And I'll tell you what page. There's more inside the bag. Okay.
And Black Plague?
The Black Plague. Once you get it, I'll tell you what page you can go to.
No, I'm saying, why? Black Plague?
Well, they call it the Black Plague, but it was called the bubonic plague.
They turned purple.
Everything, right. But they'll use, again, black bad, anything dark, melanin, no good. So we get that. Bubonic plague. Okay. Let's get a few more. I want everybody to have a few copies as we're going through it so you can see what I'm reading.
Try to share that. Now, I take it you want these back, right?
Yeah.
I'm good.
Or you can purchase it. That's fine. This book is called Children's Fairy Tales Breed Adult Religions. And we address how the fairy tales were reused to create the Bible as you have it today. How the story of a man, I can tell you before we go to this page, I can say to you, I'm going to describe something, I want you to tell me what I'm talking about. There's a man. He's very strong. He has long hair. He can kill a lion with the jawbone of an ass. He can rip their mouth open. Who is that? Come on. You sure? No, it's Hercules. See? What tribe is Samson from? The tribe of Dan. What tribe of Ham is Hercules from? The Danoi. The Danoi. Sound familiar? Who tricked Samson? A prostitute. Who tricks Hercules? A female prostitute. Same story. They've taken their Greek and Roman mythology and created, that's what this deals with. Well, let's go to the page.
You got it. I got it. I have considered it too, but otherwise I didn't consider it. Yeah, thank you.
Europe, at the time of what you're calling the Black Plague, was going through a renaissance. Right after the Black Plague or the bubonic plague, they went through a renaissance. When men like Dickerson, Perrault, the Grimm brothers were working to reinvigorate Europe back to its Germanic roots. It's happening again today. That's why you got your Lord of the Rings and your Twilight and your Lycans, the Underworld, and what's some of these other ones, the Teenage Witch Sabrina, and all these television shows. This is Greek, Roman reinvigoration through the media, through television, through movies, through cinematography, to get you back into Greek and Roman culture. Twilight, they love Bella. Bella is a Greek goddess. And Bella, they don't want to turn her as a wolf. and a vampire actually arguing over not turning this girl. Just eat her so the movie can be over. It doesn't make sense. But this is Germanic. If you go back,
They're making a Hercules now.
they're making a Hercules movie coming out. This whole thing, Lord of the Rings, 1, 2, 3, 4, the Smog and the Twin Towers, the 2 towers, the Lightnings 1, Underworld 1, 2, and 3. All of this is all being done on purpose. It keeps the religious enslavement because it's the same story. In each of these stories is some person willing to die. And the underworld story is Lucius. Lucius. What is Lucius subliminally? Come on. Lucius. No, not Lucifer. Lucius. What do you hear when you say Lucius? Luscious. What does luscious say to your mind? Good. Something you want. Something you desire. This is not mistakes. There's no new television movies coming out. They're rewriting the same scripts. If you were old enough to watch Three's Company and then you watch Friends, you see the same prince. Guys, little girls in the house, Mr. Furley downstairs, the dumb girl, Phoebe, same story. Now they got a new one. They keep rewriting these fairy tales, whether spiritually through Bible, Quran, or movies, cinematography, love stories, what are those books called? Novels. It's reinvigorating Greek, Roman, Germanic culture. Because that's what they were trying to re-identify. They were angry at the Roman invasion and how it took them away from Germanic culture.
So is 128 the picture of the position?
128 is the picture of the position. Go to page 128.
A lot of people think that the Western world has really accept that they have gotten their knowledge from the Greeks. I mean, that's what they
And the Greeks got their knowledge from the
African
Egyptians, the Kemetes. Because when I say Egyptians, please understand, I don't mean that one little small portion they're calling Egypt today. I'm talking about the continent. When I speak of North America, I'm talking about the continent. When we speak of South America, because each of our tribes has something to offer, just as each university in America has something to offer. Some universities specialize in engineering. Why? Because the resources in that area made it where it was possible to get the materials, building materials, that while you're studying engineering, you could be able to apply the things that you're learning. Certain universities deal with medicine. Why? Because the medicinal or pharmaceutical companies or the hospitals that you're going to be trained in with the hands-on are in those locales. This is the same thing we were doing. When you look at page 128, it says on the left is a picture of a plague physician of the 17th century. Notice they dress like the Tamarian angel or guardian or Nitir Tahuti. So their whole concept of medicine was coming from Tahuti. And Tahuti had a student named Imhotep. And Imhotep wrote 50,000 papyruses or papyri with medical formulas called the healing herbs of Imhotep, which we translated. Imhotep was a student of this. This was all across the globe. But the fairy tales, if I said, let's give you another one. If you blaspheme God, you can be struck by lightning. Thor, son of Odin. Odin means din. Din is the word they use in religion, in Hebrew and Arabic or Aramaic, for deen, your way of life. So Odin has a son named Thor, and if you're against Odin, then Thor will do what? Strike you with lightning. So if I take that Greek, Roman that becomes Norse mythology of the Vikings, the word Vikings is 6 kings. VI is the Roman numeral for 6. When you write Vikings, you're writing VI. 6 kings. Those are the kings that came out of Europa. That whole concept of you're never going to be struck by lightning by questioning any God. It ain't going to happen. I've been struck already. It happened. But the fear of it was placed in you. That's Norse mythology. Has nothing to do with you. If I said to you now, another example, we talked about what's his name? Hercules, right? Or who the Bible grabs and calls Samson. Now, Hercules, is he a sun god in Greek mythology? Yes, he is. Huh? He's a demigod, but he's also a sun god. Samson, what does Samson mean? In Hebrew, it's Shimshon. Shemesh is a Babylonian sun god. So when you're saying Samson, you're saying a sun god. Hercules, sun god. Samson, sun god. Hercules, long hair. Samson, long hair. Hercules, tribe of Danois. Samson, tribe of Dan. This is when the Greek and Roman and European were now invading culture diffusion, and they're giving us their gods and not telling us. We're calling on Jesus, high god of Greece, Zeus. His interpolation in Rome, Jupiter. Jupiter. What's Peter? Father. Jew, take the J-U, Rome. Take the Zeus and say Jesus. Who are you worshiping? Unbeknown to you. I'm not saying there's no original Messiah character of the Messiah tribe called the Messiah. I'm saying the Jesus, as we're worshiping this Jesus, is giving praise to who? Romans and Greece. Then this Roman and Greek Jesus, Jupiter and Zeus, also manifests another interpolation, is as the wine bibber called Dionysus, who turns water into, what was Jesus' first miracle?
Water into wine.
Dionysus. What's Dionysus? Dios, the new Zeus. Dionysus. You're saying Dionysus, but you're not hearing Dios. So in Latin America, they introduced our brothers in Latin America or South America to the worship of Dios. And they're not realizing Dios represented Dionysus, and this is why they were able to subjugate the natives of this hemisphere with what type of water? What type of water did we call it? Fire water. This poison to cause your mind to be drunken. To take the braves, our warriors, and bring them down to nothing. This was not done by mistake. They didn't come in and just start killing people. They sent in the missionaries to study you. What type of foods do you eat? And why do you eat them? And how are they prepared? How are they tasted? What type of music do you listen to? And why? What type of culture? Who's the priest? Who's the priestess? Why do you believe? What do you believe about this? What do you believe about that? They took all that information and went back. And they sat amongst the popes and the vicars, and they created a concept. And we don't realize that as we're looking at this concept, the nursery rhymes is all a part of the enslavement. The fairy tales. Let me just pick a random page, okay? Random page.
It's 129 right next to that.
129, okay, let's go to 129. Let's read something together. First of all, the word contrary is from the Anglo-French word contraire, from the Latin contrarius, from contra. And as such, the Mary in this traditional English nursery rhyme is actually Mary Tudor. Is this English nursery rhyme? Let's go back to it.
It's Mary, Mary, quite contrary.
Mary, Mary, quite contrary. Go ahead. Right? How many of us remember this nursery rhyme? Mary, Mary, quite contrary. Let's see. Go to 126, please. Let's start from 126. Can you read for us? 126. So what about nursery rhymes?
Nursery rhymes are defined as short, simple poems or songs for very young children. However, let's take a look at the word nursery. Webster's New Universal Unabridged Dictionary defines nursery as a room set apart for young children. Any situation, condition, or circumstance, or practice, etc., serving to breed or foster something, end quote. The example that is given is slums are nurseries for young criminals. Who is running this nursery? Caucasian Anglo landlords, Caucasian Anglo police officers, and Caucasian Anglo educators, who disproportionately lives in slums. Nubian Mennonites, it's inclusive of Latinos live in these areas. However, we don't own the real estate in these slums. Thus, many of us, especially the Nubian Mennonite males, start off surrounded by an environment which leads many of us to choose the lifestyle of criminals when we are young without role models, fathers or father figures, and proper mother figures, etc., to help guide these children. Thus, you have to ask yourself, how many of them will end up right where many of them are, in jail, dead, or working their way closer to either?
But nursery rhymes are just cute little harmless songs. How can you say they are so bad? Can you continue?
Let's take a look at some of these nursery rhymes. The original words to Ring Around the Rosie, Children's Green Bean, have their origin in Caucasian Anglo-English history. The historical period dates back to the Great Plague of London in 1665, called the bubonic plague, and first outbreak of the plague hit England in the 1300s. The symptoms of the plague include a rosy red rash in the shape of a ring on the skin, ring around the rosy. Pockets and pouches were filled with sweet-smelling herbs or posies, which were carried in the belief that the disease was transmitted by bad smells. The term ashes referred to the cremation of dead bodies. The death rate was over 60%, and the plague was only halted by the Great Fire of London in 1666, which killed the rats which carried the disease, which was transmitted via water sources. The English version of ring around the rosy replaces ashes with after-shoot, as violent sneezing was another symptom of the disease.
You see what happened? So we're singing these nursery rhymes to our children. We don't even know why. We're reading these fairy tales to our children. Jack and the Beanstalk and Hansel and Gretel, and we don't know why. And then somewhere along the line, the fairy tales, the nursery rhymes with Santa Claus, Jesus, same concept. Santa Claus comes in December. Jesus is born in December. Santa Claus has reindeers. Jesus has angels. Santa Claus comes down the chimney. Okay, we don't have chimneys, so we get that, right? And Santa Claus has an adversary called the Grinch. Jesus has an adversary called the devil. Santa Claus, if you've been, he knows what's the song we sing every year? You better watch out, you better not shout, you better not pout. I'm telling you why. He's coming to town, and he knows if you're sleeping, he knows if you're awake, so you better be good. That's the Jesus. Jesus is always watching. He's coming. You better be good. He's coming one day. If you're not doing good, you're going to hell. So you teach the children this fairy tale as a child about Santa Claus and tooth fairies and all these other things. And by the time they're fully an adult, they put away the children's fairy tale and buy into the new fairy tale called Bible and Quran.
But they've already integrated, no? I remember hearing a quote from one of the quotes that said, give me your children from newborn to 5 or 6 years old and I will own them
For the rest of their life. If you allow them, that's what the kindergarten is. Kindergarten is a Germanic word, kindergarten. And it has to do with programming. You're learning Germanic nursery rhymes, Norse mythology from the time you are in kindergarten. And that's why they have these kids and you sing it. When you say Mary had a, whose fleece was, who's Mary? What's fleece? That's your Jesus story. Mary, mother of Jesus, had a little lamb. Jesus is called the Lamb of God, whose fleece skin was white as snow. And you see how the programming begins? So by the time you and I were 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, we had already bought into the religious dogma that we had yet to even encounter. And this is why by the time we're adults, we're fighting against anyone who's trying to tell us that all of this that you've learned your entire life is wrong. You went from defending, most children know by a certain age there's no Santa Claus.
I know.
Right? By a certain age, most kids say, okay, mom, dad has explained, or you've caught them or whatever. You know there's no Santa Claus, but now you've embraced the new Santa Claus. And that's the God of religions, monotheism. You know there's no such thing as a bean that you can take and put in the ground, and it's going to grow a tree, and it's going to go all the way to heaven, and there's going to be giants up there. You know that, right? But yet, this same sensible person that knows there's no such thing as a bean that can grow a magical stalk that can take us all the way to heaven above the clouds, now says, well, one day I'm going to die, or this angel, God, Jesus, Muhammad, Moses, whoever, the clouds are going to peel back, and they're going to come on chariots of gold. Chariots, I mean, that doesn't really do good in 2014. Chariots worked during Roman times, and they were riding around in chariots. But you and I, when's the last time you saw a chariot running by? That's all their concepts.
But I'm not about the Europeans, right? Even when they discovered this land known as the West, they had to rewrite a lot of things.
But let's make it clear. When we say Europeans, let's be clear. All of Europe did not embrace patriarchal teachings. There were places in Europe where they were still into the matriarchal dogma, and that's what Constantine, in trying to conquer and bring all of Europe under this empire, was trying through cultural diffusion to change. It happened there first, and then they moved to South America.
Wasn't it also that
Yes,
because it was a matriarchal society, women in positions of power had to be destroyed. Their wealth, their authority, their lands were taken over by this misogynistic group that were under Constantine with the spread of Catholicism, Christian ideology, which was a male-based
Why?
ruling group because of
Why?
the power.
But what was your ability that you were so afraid of?
That we could bleed for 5 days and not die?
Yes and no. What was the original thing? That you could procreate of your own. No, of your own. You had something called parthenogenesis, or virgin birth, where you gave birth to female. There were no males at one time. The Y chromosome is very young. I'm a male, and I'm saying that, no problem saying. Scientifically, there was a time on Earth, the first cell is called what type of cell? The daughter cell. The asexual cell is called a daughter cell. So the first life form on Earth was a daughter cell. What gender is the daughter cell? So the first life form on Earth was female. Patriarchal doctrine says Adam was first.
That's right.
Though the Bible says male and female created he them and called their name Adam. So Adam is not a man. Adam is a tribe of people. But the females amongst those people were first. Originally, like the daughter cell splits, the original females, and there's records today that happen every so often where a female gives birth to a daughter and she's never been touched. It's called parthenogenesis. Don't believe me? Please go online, read up on it. Go to the New England Journal of Medicine and you'll find out they have records of parthenogenesis where there's women that have never copulated with a male. There's no artificial insemination, but they only give birth to a daughter because the X chromosome can only replicate itself. So that fear, this is where the story of the Amazon women, warrior queens of Angola, these stories of these female societies come from, was their fear of your ability to engender life of your own without the man.
But let me say this is what I'm talking about their life, because people think a lot of things change, but a lot of things haven't changed.
Hadn't changed.
It's the same thing, and we can look at it. If all the managers die out of birth now, in the next minute that woman is giving birth.
And here's the proof to the males.
The man died, what happened?
Proof to the males is this. As a male, here's a proof. We have mammary glands, don't we? Don't men have breasts? Why?
At what point in their development, they're female.
Right. So who was first? Because the female's mammary glands work, ours don't.
Life shows it as I'm saying.
What is the when I look at the mammary glands, what am I looking at? Take the mammary glands off of the body and look at them. What are you looking at? What happens to a cell?
It divides.
So this here is a symbol of cell division. You're looking at, when you see the nipples on the breast, and you separate the sternum, separating them, you're looking at the process of meiosis and mitosis. Symbol or a throwback to our original genealogy coming out of female. But what would happen if patriarchal doctrine starts to look at the science of it? So they had to create the Salem witch hunts. They had to create anything female bad, female bleeds, female evil, woman talking serpent. And they make you hate the serpent. If I go to South America, I learn about Pachikuto, the feathered serpent. But see, if you program serpent bad, serpent devil, then you can't embrace your South American heritage. You can't embrace your Native American heritage. You can't embrace your African heritage, because in all of our African culture, we always had the serpent as a symbol of the what? The rising double helix, the two energies necessary for life. You go to your car right now, you see it on his forehead. If I go to your car right now and I disconnect the negative post, the female post, can you start your battery? Can your battery start? So is feminine necessary? If I put the feminine back and snatch the masculine, can you start your car? No, you can't. You need both currents are necessary for life.
You know, so it says it's about the doctor's
That's right. The medical symbol. Why the snake? What does the snake represent? The two helixes. What type of snake? What type of snake? They say the dragon. Kundalini means sleeping serpent or dragon. What dragon? What dragon spits fire? What snake spits fire? The spitting cobra, who raises its wings, its hood. Look at that headpiece he's wearing, and you see the hood of the cobra. So it represented those who Yoruba land had it, Mandi land had it, Egypt had it, Mexican had it, Peru had it, Brazil had it, Tijuana had it, the Hopi have it, the Shinnecock have it, the Choctaw, the Mandan. We all have the acknowledgement that you have that latent power inside of you to raise those chakras, Hoka, Arush, Lati. Everybody has a culture that has a different definition of how they describe it. And when it raises to its highest point, the two snakes bite, and the medulla oblongata, the primitive reptilian brain is ignited, the 12 occult nerves stimulates the brain, and divinity is reborn. But if I can take all of that away from you and give you biblical Quran and say, this is your way to salvation, this will get you there. Like I said 2 nights ago, if you're cheering for the Chargers, and who the Chargers play today? The football game. Who they playing? Kansas City. Imagine if the Chargers head coach was given, if Kansas City's head coach went to the Chargers head coach yesterday and said, look, if you want to beat us, this is the playbook. Use this book. Right? You use that, you're going to beat us. And imagine if the Chargers head coach used that playbook. How would the Chargers fans feel about him? That he's the stupidest person alive, because why would you use the playbook given to you by your opponent and expect to beat them? Well, someone has given us the Quran and the Bible and their interpretations. They gave us their playbook and said, use this playbook, pray to me, and I'll help you overcome me. Does that make sense? But that's what we're doing. We've embraced other people's ideology. Oh no, I don't mean we like we need French. I mean we like, we like so many of us, so many human beings have given up the acknowledgement of the primordial principles. Every baby comes out knowing who God is. Because every baby comes out turning towards milk. And understands that that is the source of life, the primordial God. And without that, that baby knows they won't live. You learn to walk because somebody, mom, grandma, put those 2 fingers out and held your little hands and we were, is that real? So the primordial, what is mother? Mother, ma, water, other, the water and other, mother. The semen, the ovum comes together, mother. You are the source. In recognizing you, then we reach divinity. Because if you're divine and you give birth to a son, then that son by mere fact, excuse me, from coming forth from you is also what? So all around the world is a mother holding this divine child, nursing them, as the symbol that to rule the throne, you must pass through mother. Because mother confirms your genealogy. See, if a female is pregnant, there can be doubt as to who father is, but there's never doubt as to who mother is. So all of the thrones of ancient Kemet, Africa, South America, all of the Native American tribes, even the Italian mafia, you're not considered able to be a made man if you can't trace your mother's roots. The Jewish religion, you're not Israeli or a Jew if your mother is not a Jew. The Catholic Church worshiping the Divine Mother, Mary. That symbol of this Divine Mother, Shinmu of China. Shiva of India. Acid and Isis and Horus. Isis and Horus. Acid and Harun of Tammuz. Tammuz and Ishtar. Or Ishtar and Tamuzi of Sumer. This principle is in every culture. Of this Divine Mother holding this baby. And the baby's always a boy, and the mother is always the female, to understand yin, yang, male, female, decoral, or to and fro, centrifugal, centrifugal. You cannot escape that principle of duality. But religion said, no, there's no duality, there's only monos. And you say, what does monotheism mean? One God worship. No, it doesn't. It's a dual word, monos. Monos doesn't mean God. Monos is a Greek god of sarcasm. Type in monos, M-O-N-O-S, it'll say Greek god of sarcasm. Take your smartphone and do it. Theos. Theos doesn't mean God. Theos means the Latin god of pain. These were Latin and Roman gods, so every time you say I'm a monotheist, I am a worshiper of those who give me sarcasm and pain. And that is exactly what we've been given. A bunch of sarcastic doctrine and dogma.
And what I think that we recognize is that
The very word Pope. Let's look at the Pope. Look at how he's dressed. Is that European dress? What is he wearing on his head? They call it a mitre. If you look at his head from the side, you see a fish head. The symbol of Dagon. But who wore the fish head? The fish hat. The fish hat is an African hat that the original shepherd Osiris wears on his head of Upper and Lower Egypt. When you look at the crown of Upper and Lower Kemet, you're looking at a fish tail with the mouth of a fish called Onez, or you call it the Buto fish. It's a rainbow puffer fish, representing the 7 spheres or 7 rainbows. This was your culture. The very word Pope, Baba. Because when you're looking at Pope, you're not really seeing Pope. P-O-P is not Pope. Read what you see and not what they told you it says. P-O-P-E, Poppy. Who's Poppy? Apophis. In Kemet, Apophis or Apap was the serpent god. And that's who they brought in the worship of. They brought in the worship of Dagon, the half man, half fish. Half man, half fish that does what? Walks on water. Was Jesus' miracle, walking on water. This was your doctrine. This is that paper we handed out, and those of you who didn't get it, we'll make sure you get it. They knew. If I can promote this fairy tale, the nursery rhymes, if I can make you no longer think, is it that Greek and Roman and Germanic belief is so intelligent? Or have we been made in using 7% of this 52-ounce brain, have we been made to give up the cerebrum, to give up the cerebellum, and only hold to the medulla oblongata? We're only holding to the primitive reptilian brain, and its only concern is what? Survival. The basic necessities. So if you are in societies that are ruled by those that are using the primitive reptilian brain only, or the draconian system of thinking only, then you can't outsmart them. I can't outthink the alligator in the alligator's environment. As we said the other night, I've never seen a deer worship an alligator. I've never seen the elk worship the coyote. No other creatures worship those things that are adverse to them, except human beings. Sure. Recent as 3.5, 4 years ago, they found the Malian papyruses. Go on your phone, type in Mali, the country Mali. The Malian papyruses that they carbon dated and say go back over 100,000 years of a civilization that rivals and predates Mesopotamia. And they found it in Mali, under the people's houses who've been living there, keeping it for generations. And it has astronomy, it has sciences, alchemy formula, and they wanted to go in and take it. And the African Union said, no, we'll have our own scholars do it. And then whoop-de-doo, all of a sudden there's war in Mali, Al-Qaeda's there, France is there, and it happened to be in Timbuktu where these Malian papyruses are being stored, and whoop-de-doo, there goes more African history. Oh, and Timbuktu's not, Songhai Empire was not the oldest. They had an empire that they mapped and said rivaled Mesopotamia that was older than Mesopotamia before the Songhai Empire.
Did that have the same sort of stories?
We had our original stories, but our stories were understood as being microcosm, macrocosm. This was how we taught sciences to the children. You follow
the stories in there?
The stories were there. But what they found, we have in those records, we have, if you say Adam, say Adam. First man, right? In Old English, the T, the letter T, and the letter D are interchangeable. So now take the D off of Adam and put a T. Atom, that's cellular energy, right? Now put the U, A-T-U-M, what's that? Atum, that's ancient Tamaneti. So atom, atom, and atom are all cellular, elemental, physical. So when you're talking to those who only can perceive the physical, you talk atom, cellular energy. When you step from cellular energy in school and you learn chemical energy, you step into atom. When you step from the chemical energy to the etheric energy, the gaseous energy, you learn atum. This is what we taught in our universities. Our cities that were replicating the star formation. Why Tiahuanaco at a certain time of year, the sun will align, and this star and the light will come through, and it will light. We were building universe cities. Your Bible says, our Father who art in heaven. Heaven is Oranos in Greek. So our fathers that are in the Oranos, holy is your name, your kingdom come, your will be done on, as it is in, you're replicating on earth things you saw in the heavens. That's what the Dogon were doing. That's what Tiahuanaco was about. But if I could get you away from that and say, Mary had a little lamb whose fleece was white as snow. And we was as dark and light as could be, straight hair, woolly hair, curly hair, and we was singing these songs, Love the bridge is falling down. And you didn't know nothing about, but all of that was talking someone else's story. Hickory dickory dock, the mouse went up the clock, socks up third, but that has a meaning. It was all meaning. 3 pigs. Pigs are cute, but pigs are not cute because it produces the trichinosis worm that attracts 2 types of tissue, heart tissue and brain tissue. Were there pigs in North America before Europe's invasion? No, there were no pigs in North America. Well, there were no wild boars. All of that was brought in. The pigs were not in North and South America. Pigs were not in Africa. This is a historic. The Discovery Channel did a whole documentary. 2 DVDs. I have them. You don't have them, I'll burn them for you. I don't care what they say. I'll get them to you. You follow what I'm saying? 2 DVDs where they admit there were no pigs outside of Europe. So the eating of the pork that attacked 2 types of body tissue, heart tissue and brain tissue. Who did that and why? Why do doctors know? If I go right now and say I have diabetes, first thing on the menu, they say I got to get rid of it. If I have high blood pressure, first thing on the menu, I got to get rid of it. So if you know all of these things, you're going to eventually tell me in the hospital I got to stop eating. Why not just stop feeding it to me from the beginning? Unless you intend to attack my brain and heart tissue. Unless you intend to enslave me mentally. I don't care what your race is. If I want to enslave you mentally, then I have to give you foods that are conducive to your mental enslavement. And we eat it. We're eating some animal that someone is telling us, hey, it really isn't from you, but eat up. Because pork bellies are up on the stock market. But how do I make you like it? 3 little pigs. Pigs are cute. You know, pigs are so cute. 3 little pigs and the wolf. When the wolf go down the house, so now the wolf is the bad guy, the pig is the good guy. Cinderella. What's her story? Evil stepmother. Who's evil? Female. And she is again. Evil woman. Goldilocks. 3 bears. Goldilocks. What kind of locks? Goldilocks. 3 bears. What about the other girl living out there with the 7 men? Snow White. Who was she running from? Evil stepmother. What about the other girl stuck up in that tower? Evil female. You see how female became made evil? You see how little kids are being programmed to dislike women from day 1? And you wonder why Lil Wayne and all these other fools are on the hip-hop videos and defaming our females. You've been programmed from Cinderella, Snow White, Goldilocks, Hansel and Gretel. Hansel and Gretel, they got to kill the evil stepmother who's a witch who wants to eat them. Cannibalism. Which is a beast witch. But again, it was all done to villainize who? Female.
So I got a kind of important question, and we talked about the female, the original, being here first. Physically.
Being here first physically. Because there were female and male energies that pre-existed that physical manifestation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So this is a 2-part question. One, is there historical documented proof of that? And 2,
There's some. Okay.
And 2, you know how the Bible says, certain king has so many concubines?
Solomon?
Yeah, it's
right.
Several kings like that. I'm wondering if it was just in reverse.
No, it was okay. Now let's go to the videotape. Okay. Let me answer the first one. The records of females being first is just a simple science experiment. Mr. Professor What's the first cell on earth? Asexual. What is the asexual cell called? The daughter cell. What gender is daughter? Female. So the first cell on earth is female. And there ends the science lesson.
That has to do with science, because we have to understand that
We did. No, wait, let's stop. We know, that's a myth. Because that's another myth that they perpetrate. We've been recording records since our existence. Please let's not confuse Neanderthals' existence with Cro-Magnon's existence, with Australopithecines' existence, with Kenyan woman's existence, called an Ethiopian woman called Lucy. Huh? What about Adam? According to the Bible, Adam, it says in Genesis, male and female created he them and called their name Adam. So Adam is not the name of the first man. Adam is the name of Adamites. The word Adamites means Adumia, those of the earth, earthlings. That's all it means. Religion is not, no, here's the reason you know. Here's how you know. Adam and Eve, right? First man, first woman. They had 2 children, right? Called Cain and Abel. Cain does what? Kills Abel. And then says, whoever finds me is going to kill me. Who's he talking about? Where are these other people coming from? And that's right then and there, religion goes, there's no explanation. And then they get back into a corner. Well, those were fallen angels. Oh, those were fallen angels. Well, how did these fallen angels look? Did they look human? Did they walk? Did they talk? Did they eat? Did they laugh? Did they cry? Did they have hair, bones, skin? How did they look? And they can't answer it, so they say, well, there's just some things you just have to have faith. God works in mysterious ways. These are the quick cop-outs. You throw this at a person, because as children, we ask these questions. My first question in St. Ray's, I'm in the third grade at the time. And I raised my hand, Sister Mary Catherine, a nun, full habit, the whole thing, and I asked a simple question. The way I thought, I didn't know. Who came first, Adam and Eve or the cavemen? She said, Adam and Eve. And I said, so what happened? And she said, what do you mean what happened? I asked, how did we regress? From tilling the ground, walking upright, to walking on all fours, eating raw meat. And I answered, Amadou, go to the office. No, that was her answer. But that helped me. I'm grateful. If I ever see her, I'll probably kiss her, right? I'm grateful because it made me say, you couldn't answer my question. Now I got to find out. That was the first part to your question. The second question was
seeing that there are so many females, was it
no,
just a reverse?
Nature, no, it wasn't the reverse. Nature, in your original ways, the natives of the Americas, the Caribbean, they observed what? Polygamy. Male having more than one spouse. That was how they lived. Why? Because it was necessary for the environment they were in. What do I mean by that? If there's more females on the planet, and monogamy, as it's described today, was lived in those times, what would have happened to all the females? They would have died out. They would have died out. They would have had no one. China just went through the reverse. China said 1 child, 1 family. Everybody only wanted a male son. Now they have a bunch of men and no women. So the Chinese are now doing what? Sending people to the Caribbean, Latin America, Africa, and saying, go marry there. If not, we're going to die out. That's happening in Pakistan. A lot of those countries that practice female infanticide, where they're killing off babies, girls, are now realizing, oops. Well, in ancient times, we didn't have that problem. We understood. So males had more than one wife, but the wives, they were the ones in power. It wasn't like, I'm male and I'm ruling through sex. No, you were there to procreate. They used you for procreation, but the female sat on the throne. And the males didn't have a problem because in that system, you were the defender. The warrior Shaka was glorified as long as Queen Nandi was there. Shaka Zulu never won any battle that Queen Nandi did not draw the war plan. He was a general. He was called General Shaka. The ruler was Nandi. Nandi drew the war plans and Shaka implemented it. The woman holding the baby in her lap. We didn't have a problem with that. In every Native American village, in every South American kingdom or domain, there was a divine mother. And she advised the king. And he listened attentively. What do you feel? Because we understood that females have a what?
Intuition.
Women's intuition called it what sense?
6.
So we have 5 and you have 6. So who's in tune? Why are you in tune?
It's more than great.
Because the planet is what type of gender? It's a female planet. So who would be in tune with the female planet? But patriarchal doctrine says, how to get rid of that. Because if they ever realize it and stop hating the female and embrace the 2 polarities, the shen and the shang in Africa, the hu and the he, the yin and the yang, the male, and re-embrace that principle, then we can stand side by side and rule and do our respective rights. Not that I agree with everything going on politically, but President Obama understood that. Because who's the brain behind the whole thing? Who did he admit is the brain behind the whole thing? His wife. She's brilliant. Now, did he have a problem with it? He humbled out. She has a PhD. He just had a law degree. She got him to where he's the president. She's the first lady. He's the president. By humbling out, listening to her, paying close attention, she's the war strategist. That's why they don't really like her to do interviews. Because she don't do the game stuff. She just blah, 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 blah. Who was the one who took him through the black conscious movements of Chicago?
His wife.
Who took him to the church with
wife.
Jeremiah Wright to get indoctrinated properly?
His wife.
He's very conscious, but he's Jackie Robinson. Jackie Robinson understood if I make too much of a fuss, nobody else gets into the baseball. So he has to play the game. And who taught Michelle? Mama. And that's the brains behind the whole program. And she just sits in the back. And she's like, I'm just here to take care of my grandbaby. But she was into black liberation theology in Jeremiah Wright's church, where Michelle and her brother were baptized. And her mother and father were Garveyites. So we have consciousness, but we are so ignorant that we automatically turn. He's not doing this, he's not sure. First man through the door has to walk a certain way. When Jackie Robinson got into baseball, there were many Nubians who would say, he's not speaking out enough. He couldn't. But today, Jackie Robinson's son lives in Tanzania, where he has a 500-acre coffee farm, and they're selling coffee to all the Major League Baseball parks, and is building a town and a hospital, because he said, my father taught us, no matter what, don't live in America, return to Africa. But if you don't know that, because they didn't put that in the movie 42, that in that movie. But if you Google it and you start reading this, the pictures, you go, Jackie Robinson, he's in Africa. His daughter's there too. Because they said, Dad said, no matter what, you'll never be respected here. Make your link to Africa. So he lives in Tanzania. They don't talk about that one in 42. I saw the 42 movie. I didn't see that part. That every major league park in America, baseball, that sells coffee during their games, the coffee's bought from Jackie. Because he said, if you want to use my father's number 42, then you got to buy the coffee from us here in Tanzania, and that money goes back to developing Tanzania. That's the strategy we got to start thinking. Instead of looking for the fault in each other, the conscious amongst us, conscious Europeans, conscious South American, conscious, whoever we are that are conscious, we've got to start thinking outside this little small box. But the first step is that religion. Oh my gosh. Imagine a child walking around 40 years old still believing the tooth fairy's coming. Because the older you get, the last thing you want is a tooth coming out. See, when you're little, you're like, my tooth's out, look! And you run around with your tooth, I got a tooth, right? When you get around 30, 40, 25 and up, you're like, oh Lord, please, my tooth is loose. Dentist, can you save it? You outgrow the myth, but could you imagine a 40-year-old running around with a tooth in their hand? Look, my tooth just came out. The tooth fairy's coming tonight. What would you think? You'd be looking like, are you kidding me? Or a unicorn. Or if you imagine a 40 or 50-year-old right now telling you, Santa's coming. I swear he's coming. You hear the bells? He's coming. What would you be thinking? Like, this dude is crazy. Well, that's what happens with religion. And we argue and fight and hate each other. If you try to talk about my God, how dare you? You saying there's no God. Blasphemy, get away from me. I rebuke you. Devil, get away. Like, you know, this magic thing, devil, get away, and I'm going to just disappear. It's like, no, your God is an illusion. Your Jehovah is an illusion. Your Allah is an illusion. These are illusionary gods. Taken from our original precepts, but they have no power. If they did, they would change your condition. Where's the change? They say, well, I know this lady, and she prayed, and she was cured. Okay, let's do math. I got 1 million people. They're sick. They're all praying to get cured. 10 get cured. Mathematically, you pass or fail the test. There's 1 million questions on your test. You get 10 right. Did you pass or fail? So the failure rate of the gods of religion is it pass or fail? It's fail. I mean, if you're honest. Now, of course, the religious amongst us take offense. But if they would just step for a moment and think about what we're saying. Forget about who's saying it. To control the masses. Control, but why do I want to control the masses? For resource. We care about you, it's resource. Human beings, the first resource is the human being. Human resources. All the Department of Human Resource. Human beings are a resource. So if I can control the masses, I control the resource, and then I control the land that you stand on. If I control the land you stand on, I control the trees, the fish, the waters.
And that's power.
And then say, but you're going to get yours when you die. You're going to have land flowing with what?
Milk and honey.
What if I'm lactose intolerant? No, because I can't drink regular milk. So is it almond milk, soy milk, rice milk, cow milk, goat milk, coconut milk? What kind of milk is in heaven? And honey, what type of honey? Alfalfa honey? No, because there's like 20, 30 types of honey. And if you start asking those questions, oh, you're just being funny. No, I'm not being funny. I just don't want to buy into the fairy tale anymore. That shouldn't make me bad because I don't believe in Santa Claus. Now, I do understand that there's some people that... Right, but I understand that there's some people that still need Santa Claus. Any other questions? Any other questions?
Well, you give me lots of arguments for my Baptist preacher. My daughter just married the 7th son of a Baptist preacher, and they live in Texas. And I'm not welcome in their house because I raised the question.
Well, you're supposed to raise questions.
That's what I told him. I said, how can you believe in this stuff flinchingly without questioning it? And he said, because my faith allows me to accept it. And I said, then you're accepting claims that are not proven. And that got me uninvited.
Hey, guess what? You're not alone.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you hate them, you love them.
No.
But at the end of the day, just because you want to believe it, I always tell people this story. Take your child, it's happened to me before. Take your child to the first day of kindergarten. Get to the classrooms. You hang up their coat, you hang up their bag, and then they sit down. And most children will grab your hand because this is a new environment, and they want you to do what? They want you to stay. They want you to sit with them. So you sit down in this little chair, because they only have little chairs in kindergarten. And you're sitting in this little chair, and you're sitting there trying to let them get comfortable enough so you can what? So you can leave. But the child doesn't understand that you have to go, that you've already gone through kindergarten. You've done it already. But eventually, as they start to meet other children, they feel a little comfortable. You slowly but surely start to lift one foot, and then you slide your butt up the chair, and then you look at the teacher and go, sorry. Is that real? Yeah. Well, that's what we have to do to our brothers and sisters that are still in religion. We have to understand that they're sitting in a little chair, and they want you to stay there with them so they can feel comfortable. But you have work you have to do. So you're slowly but surely saying, okay, baby, Jesus is coming, okay. You're going to pray for me? That's all right. He loves you. Now don't. And understand that in time, most of them are going to outgrow it. Because science is such that the world is changing.
Like Mr. said?
Yes.
You have like a
Yes, we do, actually. And it's free. If you give me your email address, I'll send it to you. It's both on the paper you get. And I'll send it to you. Oh, yeah. It's free. It's PDF, it's free, it's interactive. You answer questions, I send you back. Then we have books. We refer you to other books. I'm not into I'm the only teacher and I know that. But garbage. There's information, there's boundless information on this planet. And our number one rule is don't believe anything anyone says, including me. Go do homework. Go do research. I'm not trying to get you to leave one religion of blindness to embrace a new blindness. No. This is called true faith. True faith means knowing. Blind faith is I believe my car's going to start in the morning. True faith is I have fuel, I have batteries been checked, the cables are clean, the belt's working, the alternator's new, the starter is new, the engine, that's, you understand what I'm saying? Sometimes we get in the car in the morning, we're all blind, oh Lord, please let the car start. Come on, there you go, that's the, right? That's faith, right? True faith is knowing what's under that engine hood. So what we advocate as atonism, right? The atonist doctrine, when the word aton or Adonai, A-T-O-N becomes A-D-O-N. Adon, Adonai. Adonai of the Hebrew is nothing but aton. The D and the T are interchangeable in Old Hebrew or Old English.
And even in the back of the tongue, T and D.
T and D are the same. All right? Any other questions